Seriously? What are you planning for the Christmas party?
Huh?
It's not huh. You're supposed to invite all the relatives and celebrate in a big way. Hosting with drinks and food is your job, right?
These words hit me unexpectedly, and though I was taken aback, I managed to respond. How can I, when I can barely move? I had been in an accident a while ago, which left me with no choice but to live in a wheelchair.
It's your fault for being slow. I've already sent out the invitations, so don't mess this up.
Alfie's harsh words snapped something inside of me. All right, I'll manage somehow. On the day of the Christmas party, that day, Alfie left the house as quietly as he breathed, only to show up 5 minutes before the start of the Christmas party.
Well, as a good husband, I should welcome everyone.
Humming a tune, Alfie walked in. But the next moment, he was speechless at the sight before him.
Charlotte, I won big today.
Alfie came home and immediately announced in a cheerful, loud voice. That's great, dear. I, Charla, have been supporting Alfie as a housewife for 30 years. While Alfie's habit of visiting casinos for leisure hasn't changed over the years, I've been uneasy recently as his mood swings with his wins and losses at the casino.
What's with that face? I just won for us. You should look happier.
Sorry. I was so focused on making a new dress using the method Sienna taught me. Sienna is Alfie's sister, with whom I often go shopping and consult about anything and everything. When Alfie and I decided to get married, I first met his family at a family meeting, and Sienna and I hit it off immediately, becoming close enough to discuss anything and everything. Sienna also had sewing as a hobby, and everything she made was so wonderful it seemed fit for sale. When I expressed my desire to try sewing, she happily taught me. At first, my attempts were awkward, but I improved through trial and error, and now Alfie is happy to wear the new clothes I make for him.
Oh, what are you making for me this time?
As expected, Alfie showed interest in the clothes I was working on. Pants, remember, Alfie? You said your favorite pair got torn recently.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that. When I visit clients and clothes you've made, they always compliment my style. It really helps with my performance.
Alfie, now in a good mood, hummed a tune and headed to his room. I sighed softly, then refocused and continued sewing, immersing myself for about 2 hours. It's done! I held up the newly finished pants with both hands. Truly, Sienna has taught me well. This turned out even better than before. Excited at the outcome, I called out, Alfie, your new pants are ready. Eager to give them to Alfie, I headed to his room, but there was no response. Alfie? He hadn't left his room since he went in earlier. Puzzled, I knocked on the door. Alfie? Still, no answer, so I gently opened the door and peeked inside. There was Alfie, asleep, his face down on the desk, snoring loudly, the computer still on. Really, you're not young anymore. Sleeping here could make you catch a cold. As I approached to cover him with a blanket, I saw the computer screen. It displayed a large loss in prompts for more money. What? Are you gambling on the computer now? Surprised, I couldn't help but speak out loud, waking Alfie.
Did I fall asleep here?
Rubbing his head, Alfie looked at me with a groggy expression. You'll catch a cold sleeping here.
What are you doing in my room without permission?
He became fully alert and was clearly upset that I saw his computer screen. I was worried when you didn't respond.
If you have time to worry, you should be preparing dinner. Make sure it's ready when I wake up.
I was speechless at Alfie's selfish remark. It's barely past noon, and I can't predict when you'll sleep or wake up.
It's a wife's duty to understand and serve her husband. Don't make me say such things.
With that, Alfie suddenly stood up, grabbed his wallet, and started to leave. Wait, where are you going?
For food. It's faster and tastes much better than waiting for your bland cooking. It's more Sienna's style.
Alfie turned away and left me standing there as he went out. Where did the Alfie I married go? In the early days of our marriage, he was eager to help with household chores, believing that spouses should support each other. Now, not only does he not help, but he also complains. I miss the omelet you used to make, Alfie. Alfie wasn't good at cooking, but when we were newly together, and I told him I liked omelet, he would clumsily but earnestly make it for anniversaries. As if forgetting those times, he now insists household chores are a woman's job, and doesn't even pick up a knife, let alone make omelet. I let out another sigh, one of many today, and headed to the balcony to bring in the laundry. On a particularly mundane day, Alfie approached me, visibly excited.
Hey, Charla, how about we go on a trip for a change?
A trip? That's unusual for you.
There's a ski resort I really want to visit. It has a casino that's supposedly easy to win at.
An easy-to-win casino?
Oh no, forget that. I mean, you'd want to ski again after such a long time, right?
I love skiing, and the idea of a trip with Alfie after so long was exciting. But I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling from his abnormal enthusiasm. Regardless, Alfie carried on with his plans, not even waiting for my nod of approval, and decided on the trip. And just like that, the day of our ski trip arrived.
We're here.
The world was a blanket of silver under a cloudless sunny sky. The area was bustling with many people, some gliding down the slopes gracefully. Wow! I was overwhelmed by the extraordinary scene, my heart racing with excitement.
I'll head out then.
Ignoring my awe, Alfie quickly made his way to the ski lift. Was Alfie always this selfish? Grumbling to myself, I hurriedly followed after him. But Alfie was too fast, and I couldn't catch up. He boarded the lift before me. To think, we finally take a trip together after so long, and he has no intention of enjoying it with me. My heart heavy with sadness and loneliness. The cold wind seemed to freeze my soul as I rode the lift. What seemed like a dreamy, joyful scene from before now looked like a monochrome movie from above, with black figures continuously flowing across the white snow. Finally, at the top, I headed towards Alfie, but he slid away without even a glance at me. Oh, Alfie! In his youth, Alfie was passionate about skiing, blazing down challenging slopes with flair, basking in the admiration of onlookers. Even past 50, Alfie's passion for skiing was evident, vividly weaving through the crowd. I just hope he doesn't overdo it at his age. Unlike the old days when skiing was a daily routine, his stamina has waned, and his reflexes aren't as sharp. Contrasting my slow start, Alfie's figure quickly shrank in the distance. Realizing I couldn't catch up, I resigned to ski at my own pace. That's when I noticed Alfie, stuck among a group of skiers ahead. At least he's not reckless enough to charge through that crowd. That's a relief. Relieved, I began closing the distance between us. Alfie seemed to be searching for something, constantly looking around. Could it be me? With a glimmer of hope, I skied towards him. Alfie? As I got close enough for him to hear me, Alfie glanced my way, then turned towards a route clear of the group. Wait, that way is... Despite clearly hearing me, Alfie skied off, leaving me behind. Unbelievably, Alfie was heading towards the area marked with yellow lines. In other words, a restricted area. That's not safe, Alfie. In a panic, I raised my voice, trying to stop him, but he seemed deaf to my calls. Alfie, please listen. At the moment I shouted, my feet lost their grip. What? I had never entered a restricted area before and intended to follow the path Alfie had taken, but unknowingly, I had ventured into a place with a significant drop. Ah! I tumbled down the slope, falling into darkness, losing consciousness. In a soft, dark void, someone spoke to me.
Charla, you really can't manage without me, huh?
Alfie smiled, a mix of concern and joy. I adored his smile and couldn't help but feel affectionate towards him.
Is it my turn again?
I tried to ask him to make omelet, but although I struggled to speak, no sound came out.
Yeah, I'm here. It's okay.
Alfie smiled warmly. He seemed calm enough, though he couldn't have understood me. Seeing Alfie so peaceful and smiling was rare, and he looked younger somehow.
Just stay by my side quietly. That's enough.
That's what he said when he proposed. I nearly melted in his kindness, feeling light and airy. Should I just fly away? Just as I thought that, the peaceful Alfie suddenly turned into a demon, thrusting a golden club at me.
You should just do the housework and make my life comfortable. That's all you need to do.
His words felt like a splash of cold water, and I snapped back to reality. It seemed I was dreaming. Slowly opening my heavy eyelids, a white ceiling came into view, followed by the beep of machines. It appeared I was miraculously saved. Under anesthesia, I felt no pain, no sensation at all. Unable to move my head, I tried to look around with just my eyes, but there was no one around. Someone? Even though I tried to call out, my voice was weaker than a mosquito's buzz, barely audible even to myself. I wondered if Alfie was safe after venturing into such danger. Worry for Alfie overwhelmed my concern for myself. Due to the dream, I felt an intense longing for him. Alfie. A sense of anxiety welled up in my chest. As I was consumed by loneliness and despair, I heard footsteps approaching.
Really, what a clumsy thing to do.
Unaware of my regained consciousness, Alfie muttered harshly.
What am I supposed to do now? You think it's okay for me to struggle?
Muttering complaints, Alfie continued.
I stayed because it was convenient, and you were good at housework, but what now?
His unexpected cold words stormed through my heart. Alfie. I tried to speak, but again, no sound came out. And Alfie, lost in his own world, didn't hear me.
Just get discharged quickly, okay? Otherwise, I have to do all the housework, and that's a problem. I'm busy, so don't make more trouble for me.
Tears flowed from my eyes at his utter lack of love.
Huh? What's this? You're awake?
Alfie finally showed interest in me, but not out of concern.
If you're awake, then move. Having to juggle work and housework makes me want to cry.
His relentless, harsh words only made my tears flow faster.
Seriously?
Alfie muttered coldly and left the room again. Alfie! My feeble voice disappeared into the dry air. As my consciousness cleared, I realized I couldn't feel my legs. Why? I could barely muster strength, but my legs felt nothing, not even a sense of nerve connection. Even as my hands began to move somewhat, the sensation in my legs never returned. It can't be. I felt as if the blood had drained from my body. Trembling, I pressed the nurse call button. Soon, a nurse arrived, smiled kindly, and asked how I was feeling. I don't feel any pain, maybe due to the anesthesia, but at the same time, I can't feel my legs at all. My voice wavered with the weight of my words. The nurse's face clouded, and after a moment's hesitation, she said a doctor would explain and quickly called for one. After a brief examination, the doctor presented a harsh reality. I had hit my spine badly, causing paraplegia. Unlikely to heal. I almost fainted from shock. I would be forced into a wheelchair life leaving me filled with despair. Apparently, Alfie had already been informed, which explained his cold behavior. It felt like a lead weight had been dropped in my heart. As the nurse looked at me with pity, I felt increasingly miserable. Asking to be left alone, I closed my eyes tightly. How much time had passed? When I opened my eyes again, I saw Alfie's sullen face. Alfie?
Are you pretending to sleep? Don't make my life harder.
He quickly started with his sarcasm. It's because you went into the restricted area, Alfie.
Your level and mine are different. I could have handled it alone, but you had to interfere.
Fidgeting with irritation, Alfie raised his voice.
And now that you can't use your legs, my burden has increased.
With a click of his tongue, he tossed a large bag onto the table.
Here's your hospital stuff. I'm too busy with work to come again, so manage on your own.
Alfie had changed so much. It made me question whether our past promises of love had ever existed. Without waiting for my response, Alfie left. Finally, the day of my discharge arrived. Without my own wheelchair, a nurse kindly lent one to me. Struggling with the unfamiliar wheelchair, I left the hospital alone. As he had declared, Alfie never visited me once during my stay, leaving me to a difficult hospital life. However, not having to hear his verbal abuse was perhaps a small mercy. By the time of my discharge, the year's end had arrived, and everywhere was bustling with end-of-year sales. Normally, I would have dived into the crowd without hesitation, but now, confined to a wheelchair, it weighed heavily on me. Holding back tears, I somehow managed to make it home. As expected, Alfie was not there. The house, not being barrier-free, presented challenges I had never considered before, with even small steps feeling like insurmountable walls. There was a high step at the entrance, and without a ramp, I had to get off of the wheelchair and struggle inside, using various supports. Fortunately, my relentless rehabilitation had paid off a little. My legs, which were said to be immovable, could now move slightly. Though slower than a snail, I could walk if I dragged them along. In the midst of my struggles, Alfie returned home.
Dinner?
His first words, without a hint of concern that I had safely returned, left me momentarily speechless. I just got back, and with my legs like this, I can hardly move. Standing is already a challenge, let alone cooking.
You're useless. Supporting me is your duty, and you're just a burden like this.
Harsh. I've always supported you, Alfie.
I've been letting you live freely. Never thought you'd repay me like this.
Alfie seemed even more aggressive than before, and I wish this was just a dream.
Seriously, what about the Christmas party?
Huh?
Don't say huh. You're supposed to invite all the relatives and celebrate big. It's your job to host with drinks and food.
Talk about a bolt from the blue. Despite being taken aback, I managed to find my words. How can I when I can barely move?
It's your fault for being slow. I've already sent the invitations, so don't mess us up.
Alfie's anger at my inability to move properly only increased the pressure on me.
You should perform your duties admirably, since I'm allowing you to be useful.
At that moment, something snapped inside me. All right, I'll manage somehow.
That's right. You should have said so from the start.
Eventually, Alfie left without mentioning my legs and went out again. Watching his back, I made a firm decision. While I struggled with the Christmas party preparations, Alfie, having no involvement, seemed to sneak out frequently and was rarely home. On the day of the Christmas party, Alfie left the house as quietly as he breathed, only appearing 5 minutes before the party started.
Well, as a good husband, I should greet everyone.
Humming a tune, Alfie entered and was speechless at the scene. The Christmas party had already started, with guests exchanging greetings.
"What's this?"
"Can't believe you sent out invitations yourself and didn't help with preparations or even bother to greet the guests." Alfie, who always prided himself on being a good husband, had a tremendous concern for formalities and was appalled at the idea of being late to his own Christmas party. He desperately alternated between looking at his watch in the room, but the hands of the clock only moved forward.
"Hey, Charla."
In front of the relatives, Alfie lost his composure and called out my name loudly. His irritation at its peak, Alfie forcefully grabbed my shoulder.
"Ouch! What is this about? The Christmas party has started without me."
He shook my shoulder with such force, it felt like he might push me over. "I moved the time forward considering guests traveling from afar."
"What? After I've made all the arrangements and sent the invitations, you're making me look foolish."
Sienna intervened, brushing Alfie's hand off my shoulder protectively. "We made the arrangements, along with everyone else." Sienna sharply countered Alfie's fury. Before the party, I had called Sienna. Alfie, a victim of his own male chauvinism, had also victimized Sienna. She had listened to my complaints about him and repeatedly warned him, but nothing seemed to resonate with Alfie. "It seems Alfie needs to learn the hard way." In a huff, Sienna and I discussed the ski trip accident. I never imagined such a disaster would happen on what was supposed to be a fun trip. I recounted everything, including my experiences during the hospital stay. "It must have been hard for you, Charla." Sienna apologized. "I'm so sorry for my brother's behavior. I know an apology isn't enough, but I will support you." Sienna offered full support, and we decided to involve the relatives. After explaining the situation, everyone agreed to help. Alfie had always boasted to others about being a capable husband. The relatives, initially surprised, sympathized with me after hearing my story. Together, we transformed the anxiety-filled Christmas party into a glimmer of hope. Alfie, stunned by the truth, was at a loss for words. "You always acted so nice in front of the other relatives, didn't you?"
"I'm not acting. I'm a good person."
"I heard everything from Charla. It's clearly your fault."
"Don't be ridiculous. She must be playing the victim with her made-up stories."
Sienna, calm yet assertive, continued. "It's not made up. I went to the hospital, and they said you only visited once."
"I was busy with work."
"Or busy at the casino." Sienna hit the nail on the head, making Alfie falter for a moment, but he quickly retaliated.
"I said I was working."
"I talked to the neighbors while preparing for this party. They all said you were constantly at the casino."
"Enough. So what if I was? I don't need a slow-witted woman like you taking her side. I'm better off without you."
Finally, Alfie, who had just begun to retaliate, was met with unanimous support from the relatives who couldn't believe he left his disabled wife to frequent the casino.
"All of you are siding with her. It's her fault for messing up. I'll just divorce her."
It was clear that convincing Alfie to change his stance was impossible. I calmly accepted the divorce he announced. The relatives, having lost their trust in Alfie, declared they would sever ties with him. Despite the chaos, the Christmas party turned out to be a good outcome for me, a relief in my heart. The divorce proceedings moved quickly, and the application was soon filed. However, Alfie vehemently refused to discuss financial matters.
"I've supported you all this time, and now you want a share of the property? You don't deserve any of it."
Foreseeing this from Sienna's advice, we had a lawyer intervene, and Alfie eventually agreed to pay. I decided to return to my parents' house, leaving Alfie in our old home. Thanks to Sienna and other relatives' help, my move was completed sooner than expected, and I was grateful. Meanwhile, Alfie's bad reputation spread from relatives to neighbors and reportedly reached his workplace. His reputation as a capable husband crumbled, and rumors exaggerated, suggesting he intentionally pushed me at the ski resort, causing my disability. He was relegated to a corner at his company and soon resigned, unable to bear the hostile environment. Shortly after returning to my parents' house, I received a phone call. Hello?
Is that you, Charla? Let's start over. You must be lonely without me.
To my astonishment, it was Alfie. Alone and perhaps repentant, he made an unbelievable proposal, leaving me speechless. Alfie continued, taking my silence as an opportunity.
I can cook omelets, but I'm clueless about shopping and other household chores. I'm pitiful, right?
He played the victim, but I firmly responded. I have no intention of getting back with you, Alfie.
Please, I had to quit my job, and finding a new one is tough.
That's a mess of your own making.
You'll get disability benefits, and you can do the housework. I'm better off with you, right?
Irritated by Alfie's selfishness, I retorted. After treating me like a slave and discarding me when I became disabled, now you want me to take care of you. You're mistaken if you think that will work.
We had a connection. It should be forgiven, right? Please, it's a lifelong request.
If you contact or try to get involved with me again, I'll call the police. Ignoring his pleas, I hung up, blocked his number, and initiated changing the house phone number. Later, I heard rumors of Alfie's savings running out, sinking deeper into gambling debts, and becoming impoverished. The truth of these rumors was uncertain. Meanwhile, the relatives grew closer after the party, regularly meeting for meals. I immersed myself in crafting, following the younger relatives' advice to sell my handmade products online. The items were a hit, quickly making me a popular artisan. Despite my disability, Sienna and the relatives treated me normally, and I finally felt free. What should I make next? Though I had lost much, I gained a life of my own. Sienna suggested holding a handmade exhibition, and my days were filled with excitement like never before. It's time to fully enjoy my second life. Grateful for being alive, I smiled and started working on a new creation.